Do you feel like it was a good deal now that you've done a few deals?
No, definitely not. It's absolutely the worst deal of all of the ones that we've done. This is going to be a process. We're going to be learning as we go, and the deals will get better. And they absolutely did. 100% they did. If there's anyone out there who's thinking about doing this for the first time, my personal recommendation, very strong recommendation, is to go buy the biggest one that you can afford.
So what's the long-term goal?
We were for a while contemplating an exit, but now that we've got a really good team and we have a really dialed playbook, I'm starting to think that it would be pretty stupid of me to sell.
Welcome back to JackQuisitions. Today we have Nathan Lindley with Done Right. Nathan is all over social media, so you might have seen him on X or LinkedIn, but he's doing a great job putting himself out there. Nathan, how are you doing today?
Doing awesome, man. How are you doing?
Again, we talked about this offline, but doing as well as you can be as an HVAC owner in the middle of shoulder season when it's 75 and sunny out.
I know, man.
But hey, you know, it's part of the gig, so we've gotten used to it.
Yep, totally, man, totally.
So Nathan, start us off with a little bit for those who don't know about your background. How did you start buying? So for everyone who doesn't know, Nathan is doing something similar to myself. He's rolling up very small HVAC companies in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. How did you get into that, Nathan?
Yeah. So to make a very long story short, I had a previous business in Christian book publishing, which was cool and purposeful, but a very difficult way to make a living. And one of the things I learned in that was that no matter how great our books were, nobody needed to have them. And I was always very acutely aware of that. So when we decided to shut down that business, I was trying to find an industry that my mental test was, if I just lost my job and I had this bill come, I would call my dad and I would borrow the money to pay that bill, because I noticed that no matter how broke I was, I found the money for certain things, right? Like we never went without food, things like that, right? So I wanted to be in my next attempt at entrepreneurship, I wanted to be that guy. And so I kind of wrote a list of all the businesses I could think of that kind of fit that mental framework. HVAC was on the list. My dad had traveled extensively growing up, and so he had a really wide network of friends. One of his friends was an HVAC professional in a town called Palestine, which is down like Central Texas. And so I reached out to that guy and said, hey, if I gave you 10% of whatever I buy, would you consult with me and basically teach me how to run this thing? And so he agreed. We did end up landing on an HVAC business in Dallas. I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time with my family. And so we sold a rental property that we had up there and moved my wife and 3 kids down to Dallas. And we closed on our first deal in February of 2020. So excellent time to be getting into a new industry, like right at the beginning of COVID. So
it's no secret that my office here in Nashville is almost completely empty. So how do I support my team as well as have great growth metrics? Well, the answer is international contractors with Quick Staffers. So Quick Staffers is a premier staffing agency which will place top-tier talent in your business, built by the trades for the trades. So if you need a CSR, they'll be placing a CSR that is highly trained in your business, that knows Service Titan and can book calls effectively day one, call one. Affordable, reliable, and trained in all of the industry best practices, Quick Staffers can help you cut that overhead, boost conversions, and scale your business fast. So don't waste another lead. Visit quickstaffers.com and transform your business today. Yeah, right before it dropped out. Well,
yes,
it is wild how similar your story actually is to mine. Is we left the West Coast about 2020 and moved across the country into the South and bought an HVAC company because of the same thesis, though. The thesis that I had was, if you lived in Nashville, Tennessee, when it's 95 out and 100% humidity, if you had to choose between getting your lawn mowed, fixing your pool, or your AC unit, it's going to be AC unit or flooding toilets every single time. I don't care.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
You will figure out a way as someone in your family to get that working.
Yes.
And it still holds true. I do find that to be an amazing thesis that continues to prove to today.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you buy this first company, you move from Oregon into Dallas, and how did you go about finding this first acquisition?
Biz buy sell, bro. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I did not overthink it.
Well, so
Yeah.
let me ask you the question a different way. Do you feel like it was a good deal now that you've done a few deals?
No, definitely not. It's absolutely the worst deal of all the ones that we've done. And so we knew that that would be the case too. In fact, I said to my wife, I'm like, I'm going to make this statement out loud right now, just so that we can look back on it and remember. Our first deal will be our worst deal because we don't know what we don't know. I just wanted to
Hmm.
like make that statement, very clearly so that we would not kind of like, take the pressure off of ourselves that this had to be, the home run, and just know that this is going to be a process. We're going to be learning as we go and the deals will get better. And they absolutely did. 100% they did.
Yeah, yeah. And so as you're going through that, so you found one on Biz Buy Sell. At some point, you came up with an additional thesis that, hey, I'm not just going to buy one, I'm going to buy multiple HVAC businesses.
Right.
Where and why did that come about?
Yeah, so it was interesting. I'd be on Biz Buy Sell, and I'm trying to kind of get the pattern or the rhythm to the valuations, and what
Hmm.
I would notice that there would be these small mom and pops that were trading for 2.5x back in the day, and then I'd see these bigger companies trading for 4x. I'm like, what what's the difference there? And I started to realize that there's this multiple expansion as the companies get bigger. And I was like, man, I wonder like what if you could buy like two or three of these smaller ones and put them together into one bigger one, and you could sell that for a higher multiple. I had absolutely no idea. I had no private equity background or VC, like nothing. So I'm started googling all this stuff, and I realized, oh yeah, that's a thing. You know what I mean? It's like you're kind of discovering all the principles on your own, and then you go and research it to figure out if you're crazy or not, and you realize that no, there's a whole industry built around this exact idea, you know.
Well,
And so, because initially I was gonna just try and buy something and run it, and just get passive income. The whole idea was, let's buy a company that's been profitable for 100 years and don't change anything, and it'll continue to be profitable, right? And of course, you and I both know that it doesn't work that way. But that was the original thesis. And then as I started kind of like, doing more research and educate myself, I realized that, you could buy all these companies and increase their collective value. And then at some point you could sell it down the road. And so my strategy kind of shifted around that point to trying to scale this thing. Also, the company that we bought to start with was too small to really make a living on while you're also servicing the debt. The free cash flow after that debt payment wasn't really enough. So we kind of needed to scale anyway.
yeah. So there's so much to unpack there that I just want to like drive into new
No, dude,
people's heads.
seriously.
Is like there's the concept of you have to understanding that your first deal is going to be bad. You had to
Yes.
grow out of it as quickly as possible. We
Yes.
found out the same thing through the hard way as well, is keeping
Yes.
expenses low while pushing hyper growth to exceed your debt limitation on the business and actually survive. You also to unpack is like, again, very similar strain as we've bought 4 businesses in the past 3 years and we found the same thesis. Did you find that buying those small mom and pop shops, they were easier to purchase because there wasn't as much competition versus the large companies? Or why
Definitely.
did you choose on those? It wasn't just like multiple compression. It was probably a mix of competition for the actual listing itself, maybe longer time on market. Like where was your focus on those kind of ones?
So early on, it was out of cowardice. It was just not having the guts to go, spend $2 million on a business where I didn't know anything. So I thought I was playing it safe by buying this little tiny thing, and I'm going to learn the industry, on the cheap, and then in retrospect, if there's anyone out there who's thinking about doing this for the first time, I would personally, you can disagree with me if you want. My personal recommendation, very strong recommendation, is to go buy the biggest one
Yeah.
that you can afford, because there will be layers of management and institutional knowledge that you're going to inherit that will take you years and could potentially be fatal just to learn. You
Hmm.
might not survive the learning process, but if like, and I would say, I mean, maybe not, maybe the biggest is an extreme example, but I would say 3 to 5 million, somewhere in that range. You will have managers in place and institutional knowledge that will greatly benefit you.
Yeah,
And
3 to 5 million. There's a service manager somewhere in that mix who understands at least the majority of the technical knowledge behind what you need to do, and so that you
100%.
can focus on the business. Again, so much to unpack, and our stories are so linearly similar, which is actually
Yeah.
really eerie because we bought the small ones out of cowardice because like I couldn't afford anything else because I just
Right.
took
Right.
out a massive line of debt.
Right.
to own this one, but it helped me
Well,
grow out of that. So, that's where I was going. So when you're buying these other small mom and pops, were these tuck-ins or were these separate entities that you're running? Like, how did you manage the merging or not merging of the companies?
yeah. So I mean, so obviously early on there was nothing to tuck into. So it was, my little one tech operation was the platform. And so the deal number two, so for deal number one was in Dallas. Deal number two was in Austin. So I couldn't really
Hmm.
bolt those together. We kind of did in the back office operations. So like my admin was handling payroll and my CSRs, we're using a soft phone, and so we could centralize the call center and all that kind of stuff. But it was pretty tough for a while to fully integrate. But as we've gone on, yeah, it's fully integrated. Even being in the two different locations, it is extremely well integrated to where if I go buy a location in Austin tomorrow or one in Dallas, it's about a 72-hour onboarding process, and then it's indistinguishable from the rest of the platform. And that's really getting a good team built up was by a long shot the most important thing that we did. Getting competent managers in place who are strong technically, strong salesmen, and could take the inherited technicians and bring them into our process effectively was paramount.
And so how many deals have you done now to date?
We've done 9 so far. We're under contract with 2 right now.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
And so I didn't realize though, I thought you were DFW and Dallas only. You're also
No,
in
we're Dallas
Austin.
and Austin.
How has that presented a challenge having an additional, I guess, hub or location that's 2 hours away?
Yep. Yeah, it's closer to 4.
I was gonna say,
I don't
depending
know.
on what part of Dallas,
I was
because I
just gonna
learned the
say it
hard
takes
way.
me hours just to get through Dallas.
Frisco to the airport is an hour, and I'm
Yes.
sure the airport to like the bottom of Dallas is another hour. So
No,
it
it's
depends.
literally an hour to get from the north side of Dallas to the south side, and I'm on the
Yeah.
north side, so yeah. But yeah, so I think the way we did it was stupid, and we probably definitely should not have done it the way we did it. But early on, I had like 2 or 3 techs in each city, and I had one service manager who at the time lived in Austin. And so he would drive up to Dallas like once a week, have a little team meeting, and then he would drive back to Austin.
Hmm.
Operationally, it's actually not too bad because if you're running House Call Pro or Service Titan or Job or whatever, you have full visibility like from your couch, right? So you know what's going on in the field, no matter where you can sit on a toilet and seeing if a guy's taking good notes or whatever. So that wasn't too bad, but the boots on the ground aspect and like just kind of the tech manager relationship, that was definitely suffering. And we improved that when we were able to kind of build up each location to the point that it could justify independent managers. And that's kind of what we've got going on now. I have a Dallas guy and I have an Austin guy. They're both fantastic. They're kind of working on getting on the same page managerially so that they're teaching the same scripts and things like that to the guys. We're trying to kind of get more in sync that way right now. It's kind of our growth challenge at the moment.
Very cool. And then with economics of scale, I'm assuming that almost everything back of house is singular location. Do you guys generally house that out of the Dallas or the Austin area? What does that look like for you?
Our CSRs all work remotely, but we let them work from home. Which, by the way, there's a great workforce out there in stay-at-home moms who are highly competent individuals, but they prioritize their family. And if you can give them that ability to work from home, they will absolutely hit it out of the park for you. And they'll frequently do it for less compensation because they value that work from home component so much. I'm
Hmm.
not suggesting that you shortchange them if you can possibly help it, but I think there's this massive untapped resource in stay-at-home moms.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree on remote labor in general from that aspect. So
Yeah,
our dispatcher is a stay-at-home mom, and we found the same thing. Is she is an amazing. She definitely values her work-life balance.
yeah,
Um, that being said, the work ethic when she's on the clock is absolutely incredible. So
yeah,
shout out
100%.
to stay-at-home moms rocking it for the HVAC and,
100%.
and home service companies. So that's super interesting. I mean, very similar stories, theses, and movement. What's next for you? You talked about, hey, rolling this up into a platform. getting some of that multiple expansion at some point.
Yeah.
What's the long-term goal? I know a lot of people are like buy and hold, buy and get to private equity. Where do you sit in somewhere in that?
Yeah, we were for a while contemplating an exit, mostly out of duress, mostly out of just having. I mean, the stress of those early years and just the sleepless nights. I mean, there was literally a day. This is not an exaggeration. I pulled a blanket over my head. I hid under a blanket because I was absolutely so terrified about the situation I got myself into. And on top of that, I'd taken my dad's retirement to buy our second location. So his entire retirement was tied up in my business. And when I had run out of cash early on, I brought in my one of my best friends from Oregon as a co-investor. He put his wife's inheritance from her grandfather into my company. So I was taking everybody down with me in those early days when we were struggling. So when we finally had something worth selling where we maybe could get $1 million of equity out of it, I was like, man, this is a great time to just call it a day, lick our
Yeah.
wounds, and at least I can make my friends and family whole, right? But after a while, I started to realize that we were not in that place anymore, and it's definitely like a PTSD kind of thing, right? But now that we've got a really good team and we have a really dialed playbook, I'm starting to think that it would be pretty stupid of me to sell because we've paid the tuition to learn this lesson. And so now at this point, my attitude is hold it forever. And, but never say never.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because I mean, it aligns too with, so John and I run the Breaking Five workshop, and we always say, the 0 to 5 is such a hard range just because it's such a knife fight every single day
Yes.
over every single thing, because you don't have the individuals, the managers
Yes.
helping that business along.
Yes.
All of the responsibilities end up on your back, as well as
Yep.
marketing
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
just like
Absolutely.
everything. Um,
Everything.
so, but I love the fact that you grew out of a lot of that through, I'm sure, quite a bit of organically, but also quite a bit from the acquisition side.
Yeah.
So going back to acquisitions,
Hmm.
how Biz by Sell for number one, but I'm sure it wasn't Biz by Sell for 1 through 9. Where are you locating, and how are you, like, I don't want to ask the secret sauce, but
It was
I'm
it was
curious, like,
Biz
where.
myself for 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7.
Okay.
It was over half Biz by Sell, believe it or not. And then kind of through those deals you're exploring, you connect with brokers, and then they kind of know that
Yeah.
you're looking around and know what you like. And so
They'll give
anything
you
that I
first
didn't
looks.
directly pick up, I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, they'll give you first looks. Like I have one after this meeting, is a broker reached out to Jack. I know you're buying in Tennessee. Here's a
Yeah,
first look. It's not on the market yet, but it's
yeah,
on market deal. We will
yeah.
put it on Biz Buy at some point.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Exactly. Yeah. And so even if I didn't buy a company through Biz by Sell, I would develop a relationship with a guy, and
Mhm.
then that would later on lead to other deals I did.
So
So
with all those businesses that you're buying through Biz Buy Sell, though, I mean, notoriously, Biz by Sell happens to be some of the worst deals.
right.
Did you find that for people listening who are going, oh my gosh, like that's a lot, the amount of money, everything on there.
Yeah.
When you're looking at those deals, when you see those prices, I guess is what I'm saying, and you see those multiples, are you taking those at face value, or are you looking at that and going, hey, this is my strategy. I'm going to bring that down 200K, and then that's in my range, and then go into go into the relationship, A, building the relationship, and then B, knowing that you are going to offer a little bit less than they're
Yeah.
presenting.
So I'll say I'm a terrible negotiator. I just suck. Like I'm not good at, bringing people down. I should try sometime. I always am too embarrassed. Like if you want 1.2 and I think you're really worth 850, I'm just too embarrassed to say I'll give you 850. I usually just don't even offer if I don't think that we're gonna,
Hmm.
come to a meeting there. But I will say, and maybe this is a good point to pivot on. Um, my value drivers are very defined, and they have nothing to do with your SDE or your EBITDA. So
Okay.
while everyone else is out there paying, multiples of profit, for me that's a borderline irrelevant data point, because your SDE or your EBITDA is is the end result of a whole bunch of decisions that you made. That post close, I will have control of over all of them. And so, your pricing, your sales training, how you spend your money once it's come in, all of those things are your decisions right now that are ending up with a given number. And every single one of those things I have control over post close. And so what I'm looking for when I'm buying a company is I'm looking for the number of times that phone rings in a year. How many people are calling you for service? Because for me, that's what I'm buying. Everything that happens after that phone call, I have direct control over. I can train my technicians how to sell better. I can adjust my pricing to get better margins. I can bring in my suppliers to get better margins, and then I can control how big of a shop we're leasing, or all of those things. So I know how much money I'm going to make off of your business before I buy it, based off of some key data like that.
I think that's a good point for small businesses, right? When you're buying companies without systems, which are like the under $2 million range. So that's actually the same as our strategies. Is I always say you can mitigate risk by looking at price and due diligence. But when you're buying in that low category, you're buying the book, you're buying the phone number. Yeah. You're really not even buying technicians or systems to keep the technicians running well.
100%.
This is, and I want to be really clear that this is different once you get like to $5 or $10 million. It's a different world, right?
Yes.
If someone were to buy your business now, they would look at those things. But for people buying very small, what he's saying is like, we're looking at a business right now that has two brothers, and the two brothers, one of them is not going to come on to our team. The other one's retiring, right? So we'll pick up one of the brothers. But the point is that you're right. It's like all the decisions you made. And so what we do is we take that and we juxtapose it against how much is it going to cost for us to acquire a customer? Like, what's our customer acquisition cost, our CAC?
Yep.
And then whichever one is like, does it make sense from a CAC to volume standpoint? Because once you bring the customers into your wheelhouse, you start answering the phones with your scripts, your people, your gross margin, your prices. It ends up becoming a top line revenue source, but really it's a lead generation source, like a marketing channel.
That
interesting.
is exactly what it is. This is a replacement for marketing.
Yeah. You're able to add a huge amount of inbound phone calls, and then how you handle it. So speaking of that, so we have our way where we handle those transitional phone calls and those transitional customers.
Mm-hmm.
We found, interestingly enough, that people are very cultish about their HVAC guy. But that being said, ironically enough, they're extremely cultish about their HVAC guy. But when their HVAC guy leaves, they're very ready to like go anywhere. It's very strange.
Right.
They just want, I guess, service, and they cling on to whoever gives them good service. How do you transition? Like, what's your method of transitioning customers once that happens?
Yeah. So we have voice greetings for, number one, we got like 30 phone numbers. And so depending on which phone number you're calling, we know where you're from. And so, if we bought a company called Nix a while ago. And so we have a voice greeting that says, "Thank you for calling Nix, now part of Done Right." And then the lady answers the phone. She says, "Thank you for calling Nix, now part of Done Right." So we're kind of reiterating, number one, you called the right number. You did call Nix, but there's been a change of ownership. And we're also working on we haven't deployed this yet, but we're going to start doing targeted Facebook ads to everyone in that database.
That's smart.
Announcing, "Hey, Nix and Done Right are now, one thing," and doing that on Facebook, and probably doing some email as well. I think we have done a little bit of email, but not as much as we probably should be doing. So basically just trying to make that announcement. And then one thing that we're really, really heavy on is giving away free tune-ups and or free maintenance plans to those customers, because we do occasionally get some guys like, "Well, I used Steve for 30 years. He was the best man in my," all that kind of stuff. And well, guess what? My name is not Steve. So I'm kind of screwed, And so trying to get them to give us a shot is really, really important, because we provide a great service, usually, in fact, always better than the company that we acquired. And so I know that you will love us if you give us a chance. And so we push that pretty hard, like free tune-ups, free year of maintenance, just to get them in the habit of using us.
Do you, so again, very linear, because we do the exact same thing. We have the old owner say, "Hey, this is John from Rue Mechanical. I've partnered," and just like have the old owner's voice as well.
Yes.
Transition to our
Totally.
company.
We started doing that as well. Yeah.
And then what we do after is we send them an email campaign that's just like, "Hey, we partnered," but we still get those people. So what's your and now this is turning into like Jack's episode where I'm just focusing on how I'm going to do better on my acquisitions. Like how are you looking at attrition and attribution for like the customers? So if it has 10,000 customers, do you have an expected amount that you are going to convert over from XYZ company to done right? Like where do you place that at?
Yeah, so we're in a continual discovery process on that, and there has been a fairly wide range of outcomes there. But one of the things that we do, and this is actually a pretty important point, is we outbound call to all of the customers in that database, and we use a power dialer. If you're going to do this, look up the laws around it because they matter. But you can use a power dialer to call everyone in the database and leave a voicemail if they don't pick up. And basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to get our foot in the door with as many people as possible. And that dormant portion of your customer. So when I'm looking at a company, they have 5,000 customers in their database and they ran 1,500 calls last year. Okay, so I'm going to ascribe, when I'm buying the company, I'm going to ascribe a certain value to the customers that did call. I'm going to ascribe a lesser value to the customers who didn't call. And then I'm going to put my outbound girls on the people who did not call in the last 12 months. And what we tend to see is about a 2% conversion rate per attempt. And what we do is we do 4 attempts in a row, like 4 weeks in a row we call. And then we give it about a 90-day rest, and then we call again. So that should work out over the course of a year to about a 25% conversion rate on dormant cold customers. And so that's an additional layer of value that we can extract out of that company, which, by the way, no one else does. The whole mythical boomer HVAC guy. He's not calling his customers, and that's part of the value unlock in these acquisitions. Is there the attitude that I was trained on, the guy that I told you I brought in as a partner. When the phone was ringing, I said, "Well, what do I do?" He's like, "I don't know. You wait for the phone to ring." Well, it's a terrible strategy. By the way, if you're getting into HVAC, it's a terrible strategy. Like, pick up the phone and call your customer, and whatever you have to do to get your foot in the door, you do it. If it's giving away, a free tune-up or a free whatever, figure out a way to get your foot in that door.
Very interesting. Yeah. That all makes sense. All really, really, really good advice for people doing add-ons or tuck-ins. I mean, This is all extremely applicable. We present, or we usually buy on a 50% of active customer base, which is people who've called in the last 2 years. We get 50% of that for the Steve buddy from church. We figure, hey, there's a good chance that Steve has another HVAC friend. So we discount the Steves, and then we assign our CAC to that, plus a few dollars. And then that's generally where we fall. But we don't generally assign a value to the non active customers. Although that being said, there definitely is value there. Like, we get a lot of, we got one yesterday from our first acquisition or tuck-in. "Hey, Jeff, like, my buddy gave me your number. Are you still working on HVAC units?" And so we still get those every now and then, which is wild that, 3 years later, somebody still is driving through on the old name, on the old number that wasn't in his list. And it's kind of nice.
Today, like literally today, we sold $30,000 on 2 different jobs to dormant customers from one of our portfolio companies, where one of our girls outbound called to them and said, "Hey, it's been a while. Would you like a free tune-up?" We went out there, and on 2 different calls, we sold systems for a combined $30,000. That literally happened today.
Yeah.
That makes the payment on that company for 2 months, the profit on that.
My next question is, do you feel that there's a point where you will stop acquiring as a growth metric? Because from what, we've talked to quite a few people who have the large, 30, 40, John Wilson, for example, buying a $600,000 book becomes a lot less effective from a growth metric percentage wise as you get bigger, right? As 1 million, like, you're almost doubling or 50% increasing your business, but at 20 million or not, where does the value, or where do you see the value stopping for you as you get bigger?
Yeah. So I'll be honest, I suck at marketing. So right now I have no choice. But if I want to grow, I'm going to have to do it through acquisition. so, but honestly, I mean, today my plan is to scale an M&A team who goes out there and buys 30 $600,000 companies a year. And then we'll just develop a good onboarding process. That's my strategy today. Part of the reason for that, and I don't want to give away the secret sauce too much,
Okay.
but my the published CAC numbers in the industry, I just saw this week like $600. I think the data driven trades. I think John Tory, I think is the guy's name. Data driven trades is his newsletter. If you don't subscribe to it, I strongly recommend that you do. He publishes great marketing statistics that he's polling from Service Titan accounts of people who have given him access to the Service Titan. So this is real data. Anyway, he was publishing $600 per customer CAC costs. I think through a Google PPC or something like that. It's astronomical. But if you can go out and you can buy John's AC in small town Tennessee for $300 per active customer, you're getting that company for half of what it would cost for you to build that company through Google PPC. Unless you're better than the average statistic, which obviously some people are going to be. I am not that guy today. So maybe someday I'll meet the marketing wizard who can help me unlock another growth channel. But today, that's my strategy.
The other part that I think is extremely interesting about the strategy of, hey, $600,000 companies is what you do is you pick up naturally companies that are kind of in less congested areas. And maybe this is not what you see, but this is what I've seen around us, is there's a lot more of those small guys who have kind of owned a small sub-market, like a tertiary, or I don't even know what's after tertiary,
totally.
a 4-tier market.
Yeah.
And they've been the only ones in this town of, 10,000, 15,000 people.
Right.
And they've just completely owned it at, $1.5 million in revenue.
Right.
And being able to, buy them at a fair price. And, you get a lot more out of that because they haven't, they're not going to anybody else. So you're buying an entire territory, given it's a tertiary market, but you're buying the entire thing. And B, they generally haven't had that service, like you mentioned, of like a really top tier service. So you're able to step in, give a top tier service, and actually raise that valuation on that singular area
100%.
or portion of the company by a ton.
100%. Absolutely. In fact, one of the best deal we've ever done was exactly what you're describing. Yeah. And I think we paid that whole company back in 6 months.
How are you funding all of these? Is there like what does that look like, and what do you recommend from a funding standpoint? So we use the SBA 7A plus internal cash flow, like CapEx.
Yeah. So we've done SBA 7A on I think 3 deals now. Some of them were just the whole deal was SBA. Some of them it was like 50% SBA, 50% seller's note. The favorite deal that I've ever done from structure was a complete revenue share. And
I love it.
the seller they'd built their company in a very weird way. Everything was subcontracted, but there was still a database there that had some value. And I said, I'll give you 10% of whatever revenue comes in. And we assigned it a phone number and we tagged all the calls so we could pull a report to show the revenue. And that was my favorite deal structure. Then we've done, I did like, 150 cash plus a seller's note for 200. I mean, just basically everything that you can imagine. What I'm graduating to right now, the 2 deals that we've got under LOI are kind of bigger deals. So I'm going to see if I can do a deal with an SBIC and get like a $10 million package put together with them. But
Very
I've
cool.
not done it yet. So that's the next layer of this thing that I'm exploring.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you just named off all it is. We have one SBA. We're open to, an expansion loan on that with the 0% down, but
which those are awesome, by the way. I have actually done that. And
amazing.
I actually got a $20,000 check out of that deal.
Yeah.
It was cool.
They gave you money to loan on it.
They gave me money back on a deal. Yeah.
And then the rest have been cash plus rev share. And we did the exact same thing that you're doing here is we tied it to the phone number, tied it to the account, and then took a piece of that on every single job that came in, which I think we paid off the rest of that specific loan in like 7 months. So like,
awesome.
It was amazing. It was a great, it was a big win for the company. And by the way, guys, I would love to draw a note is if you can hear Nathan's phone in the background and you're curious about what it's like to be a business owner, just go back and listen to how many times it rings in 30 minutes.
I apologize for that, man. I don't know.
No, please don't.
We're buying a couple trucks right now. I think it might be my banker trying to get a hold of me for something.
Yeah,
so I'm sorry.
Mine's doing the exact same thing of having notifications, like it's like the phone's ringing right now. So you know, that's the joy.
I'm sorry, man.
No, seriously, don't worry about it. Any last minute thoughts or questions, concerns? So I give it as a soapbox moment. If you have a big, like, hey, this kind of beat me up during my initial acquisition that I want to yell and choke new searchers on and say, hey, don't do this or do this. Like, what is that?
Yes.
We all have one. Give it to us.
Probably one of the most important decisions you can make in your ETA journey is which SBA lender you are going to pick. A lender who will be in your corner to get you closed on the deal, as well as set you up for future expansion. That is why we partnered with Alan Peterson from First Internet Bank. He and his team take a how can we approach, as well as I personally know they specialize in home service acquisitions. Mention the show or my handsome bald head and receive a reduced good faith deposit, as well as a detailed deal review and maybe even a buy-side pre-qualification. No strings attached. Head on over to alanfib.com. That's alanfib.com, or click the link below to get connected.
Buying small businesses is a tremendous opportunity, but it is not like buying duplexes. Do not think that this is going to be a passive income. You just sign the contract and just wait for the checks to roll in. You need to go into this with the mentality that I am going to own this. This is going to be my career for the next 3 years plus. I've talked to multiple people who grossly underestimated the challenge. Several of them have lost everything through SBA loans that they were not able to pay back. So yeah, it is absolutely a tremendous opportunity, but it is not a passive income opportunity until you're at years 6 and 7 and you've built a great team, and then you can kind of unplug a little bit. Actually, that phone ringing is deceptive because I homeschool 3 kids right now, and I can actually really unplug for a lot of the day. It's going crazy right now for some reason. I don't know why. But you can get there, but that is your reward for half a decade of hard work.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Nathan. Thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you, reach out to you, hear more about you and your story?
So I'm on X at _lasting legacy, which is a carryover handle from my publishing days. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm super active on there as well. So
awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today. If you guys like what you heard, leave us 5 stars. Just do it. Take the 5 seconds. I'm over here hustling away. The least you can do is drop a 5-star review for me. I appreciate it. It helps us all out and us grow to be able to get, more people on. So thank you all, and I'll see you next time.